It's fire alarm testing day in our building, which means that intermittently throughout the day are loud triggering sounds that I can't really be around for. So we usually get out for the day. The invisibility of disability. There is so much that Steve and I struggle with that people don't see. And as a result, people don't understand why we can go on these hikes and trips, but we can't hold down a job. And as I've said a lot of times in a lot of different videos, we can't do things consistently because there's nothing consistent about our brain injuries. And there's no hard, definitive answer, or else the NFL and all the major sports franchises wouldn't have these problems. Like, we know more about the universe as a human race than we do about the human brain. So we need to remember that when we're judging people. I struggle with nightmares. People don't see that. I struggle with a lot of anxiety, and anxiety isn't always like freaking out. Anxiety can just look like a duck on a pond where everything's calm on the surface, but underneath my feet are turning a mile a minute and I feel paralyzed and frozen and I can't speak. I can be really overstimulated and it just looks like I'm being kind of quiet, but in reality, I am struggling in figuring out how to speak and how to get the thoughts from my brain out of my mouth to advocate that I'm in an environment that's too stimulating and I can't advocate for myself. I have a lot of neck and shoulder and back pain that as a result of my injury. People don't feel my pain, and pain doesn't look like it's not that. It's like when you're dealing with chronic pain all the time, you have to learn how to work through it. So I can't always be reliable and I can't always do activities that people are anticipating. Migraines, like the light sensitivity is one of the few things that people can see because I wear these very obvious dark glasses. There's things like nighttime where I have to wear the glasses because at night there's headlights and like bright street lights and lights that are very jarring, especially in contrast to how dark it is. Noise sensitivity. It's funny how people are like, why can't you work? Nobody has ever asked me, why aren't you going to concerts anymore? I used to love concerts and I always dreamed about living in the city over the summertime and just going to like all the concerts. And that's not a thing. I haven't been to a concert since I hit my head. I used to be a huge Dave Matthews Band fan and a bunch of other music, and I've seen a lot of concerts, and that used to be one of my favorite parts of summer in the city. Not a thing anymore. Can't do that. It's way too triggering and it's too much for me. But people don't acknowledge those things. We don't acknowledge the things that we can't really see or that like aren't part of our day-to-day lives. People see me meeting up with friends for a walk, and then we're walking and talking and chatting, and then everyone thinks we're good, and that person goes home and does all their regular activities, and I go home and I have to recover. Steve struggles with things like clonus, which people don't know about, but he has so much tone, especially in his left side of his body, that his leg will shake. And he has dystonia, which is a thing where it might be linked to clonus. It's like he doesn't have a lot of control over his fingers, and he gets like these wiggly fingers, and he drops a lot of things. So he just kind of looks like Dropsy, and this guy that's kind of clumsy and drops a lot of stuff, when in reality, it's his brain injury. So that's just like a small handful of the that we're dealing with on a regular basis. And it's a lot to deal with. And yeah, we look good on the surface. We look like we're fit and healthy and that we can take on the world. But on the inside, underneath, we're suffering and we're struggling and we're fighting our hardest to live our best version of our lives. Because both Steve and I, work was kind of everything when we met. We defined ourselves on the different jobs that we worked. He was trained as a teacher and worked as a camp director, and I identified with camp and skiing and any job that we would take on. We just kind of wanted to be the best at it, and to not be able to really sustain work anymore in the conventional meaning is really challenging. And so, we try and do these speaking roles, and we try and participate in random casual events that help bring awareness. And when I'm feeling up for it, I paint. But these aren't sustainable ways of living, and we need to really acknowledge that we shouldn't be punishing people because they're disabled and they can't work and they can't hold down a job. We shouldn't be saying well, you should just be living the sad, quiet life if you can't work. It should be the opposite. We should be like empowering people. We should be making their flame brighter, not blowing out their candles. And if you're a good friend and you're a good family member, or you're like someone with compassion, understand that we should be lifting people up, not pulling them down. If you don't understand a situation, talk to the person more. Understand there's so much more than what we present on the surface. And we have so many symptoms. It's literally called an invisible disability because you can't see it. You can't see what we're dealing with. So please understand that. Please understand and know that if we could, we would be working full-time jobs and we wouldn't be freaking out about money all the time. And we are. We constantly worry about our futures. But we want to believe that everything's going to work out and that we're going to be supported and we're going to find a groove in life, that we're not going to be always panicking for security of life and things that should have been just taken care of as a result of the insurance systems that we're part of. Years ago, I came across The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown, and it really changed my perspective on putting yourself out there. And I think that's kind of the vibe I'm aiming for 2023, is like the power of vulnerability. This is who I am. I'm going to be as authentic as I am, and I'm going to continue just to be me. And I'm not going to conform my views or ideas based on other people's misconceptions. I am who I am, and this brain injury has been challenging. This is a really long video, and I'm sorry about that, but some recent events really made me feel like I needed to express this. Just because you see something doesn't mean that's the way it is. Get outside, chase life, make this the best day ever, and remember that brain injuries are like fingerprints and snowflakes, each one unique to itself.